So wondering,
Well,
do you have any advice for anybody starting a new site? Like what sort of advice? I mean, how much of the managing side, how much of a commitment have you been able to put in, and what would you suggest people to do?
well, it's been a lot of work, but it's been really fun, really, really fun, and really satisfying. It is. I think it absolutely has made a difference in town.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think more people know about things,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, the trouble, people. It's not that we have tons of people at meetings now,
Mm-hmm.
but I think when issues come up, I think there are more people who come, and I think there are probably more people who write to the boards
Mm-hmm.
about an issue because people don't talk or don't write about things
Mm-hmm.
because they don't know what the facts are.
Mm-hmm.
They feel incompetent and they don't
Yeah.
want to make fools of themselves. They don't want to. Everybody's nightmare is to get up at a meeting and say, "But what about this?" And the board would say back to you, "Oh, we talked about that last week," and then
Huh.
and you didn't know it.
Yeah.
Okay, goodbye. Sorry. So, but if people get the feeling that they do know what's passed, that they can keep track of it,
Mm-hmm.
then they do feel competent to get up and say X or Y.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there probably, I hope there's more of that. I think there's more of that.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you plan on seeing for the future of Newcastle now? You talked about maybe getting more high school contribution, expanding a little more in that area. Do you see
I'd
any
like
more
to.
other areas like, or maybe moving to different, adding another town?
Well, you know what? I don't want to add another town.
Hmm.
I'd say to the other town, add yourself to yourself. I mean, do yourself. Do
Yeah,
the one yourself.
that's enough
Don't
work for
don't
me.
don't come here, and we're not going to come there because I really do believe that the perspective that you get
Hmm.
from living in your town. I
Hmm.
know people say, "Oh, that can be very confusing, very." It can cause conflicts because what are you? Are you there as a parent or are
Yeah,
you there as a reporter?
yeah.
But so people talk that out too,
Hmm.
and they settle it. They say,
Hmm.
and you say, well, both. I'm here as both. I can ask the question because I live here and it's my board of education,
Hmm.
but I also want to tell other people what you say
Hmm.
to me. So so I think it's not as uncomfortable as it sounds
Hmm.
because people get the idea and um, and get the idea that it is a help.
Hmm.
So I think every town should have a tiny one itself.
Hmm.
The high school idea, I think we can look for interns at the high school
Hmm.
to write for us or to write about the things that they want to write about.
Hmm.
But I'd like to do something more like, there are in the United States now these public policy classes, even in high school, at high school
Really?
level.
Government?
We
Oh,
had
yeah.
we had one, yeah,
Hmm.
public policy,
Yeah.
which looks
Hmm.
at how government works and why it works and that what it can be used for
Hmm.
and um, I'd like that kind of thing. We had one at our high school that was connected to a college. In fact, it was
Hmm.
one of those college courses in high school
Yeah.
with a curriculum from the college that
Hmm.
you plant in the high school and you
Hmm.
go through it. So I'd love to actually, partner with a public policy
Hmm.
course. I don't know if they're running it next year. I need to find out, and hope that really kids in a public policy class
Hmm.
would be natural understanders
Hmm.
of this kind of thing.
Hmm.
And a teacher of public policy would naturally understand also the value of sending kids out into their own community
Hmm.
to. It really is for the kids,
Hmm.
especially for kids. They'd be performing a real public service.
Hmm.
Um, uh, More so, I mean, it's great to raise money for
Hmm.
causes and
Hmm.
for hunger and for
Hmm.
strife around the world, but to really do something in your world,
Hmm.
you could be reporting what happens right up close,
Hmm.
and that really makes a difference.
Hmm. And
So I'd like to interest high schoolers or
hmm.
their advisors
Hmm.
in pointing them to an organization like ours,
Hmm.
and making it easier for us
Hmm.
to spread ourselves and teaching kids what it's all about. what reporting is about and what government's about.
And how long do you plan on doing this for? You've done this. You started about 10 years ago. Another 10, 20 years, or as long as.
Well, the paper is only about a year and a half old.
Oh.
So I would say it's so fun and it's so great. I don't see an end. I don't see an end on it. I really don't. I think it would be. It would be nice, I suppose, to take some other people in, and we could broaden our coverage there. I mean, we would like, for instance, to cover the library board. I'd like to have somebody covering the stories at each of the boards. If something big comes up at the planning board or the zoning board, we naturally pay attention. But there are stories every week coming out of the zoning board and the planning board that could be great. Only we just don't have manpower, person power. But it would be great to expand in that way, to have people cover more of what's going on in town.
And
it'd be fun.
Thanks. That's it. Is there anything else, like any extra advice you can give to our students? We're trying to become an incubation center, and hopefully we can make a couple of our own Newcastle Nows. Is there any advice, any extra advice you can give to our students?
I think no. I think we covered everything, because I was going to say they should. It's nice not to have any axes to grind, but I already covered that. I told you, even if you start with an axe, it goes away because So it's I guess my big advice, I think, is or my big hope is that kids or people pay attention to writing and not let it disappear. And support somehow, read and read papers or paperless papers, or paper papers, to read and to write back to papers about issues, and not be tempted just to be tempted just to Twitter back responses. But to have the thinking that writing makes you do. So that's my big fear and my big hope is for writing.
Okay, and thank you so much for doing this interview. It's
been great. That was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you so much.
And my first time on Skype. I'm very good at it.
And you're doing great.